Sixers nonstop. Sean Barnard's going to join the show. Phillies on the docket. Whatever you want to talk about. The most interactive morning show or sports talk show, period, in the Philadelphia area. Trending the AM. It starts in 30 seconds.
Fourth and goal.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM. We're right here live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, on Philadelphia Sports Network. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow, turn notifications on, tell a friend, share this, that, whatever it may be. The best way to support local podcasts, local YouTube, content creators is to share and spread the word. We're the most interactive morning show, the most interactive show there is out there. The best way to help us out is to tell a friend and join the conversation. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, here at Trending in the AM every single morning. Back, baby, after our one-day hiatus. Had my big monthly catering order at my pizza shop. 430 pizzas went out yesterday. I was in there making pizzas at 7 a.m. Support local pizza, too. Fox's Pizza, Kennett Square. Always shout that out when I can. But we're back. So we're one day behind on the conversation, and the Sixers are alive. You're telling me there's a chance. Everyone told me I was insane for saying it was over, saying the Sixers season ended. And they're back, baby. They took all my emotions that I had lost. They pulled me. Once they think you're out, they pull you back in. Sixers are back at it, baby. And they're back tonight. Game 5, pivotal Game 5 of this best-of-7 series in the Eastern Conference Finals. And there's a lot to talk about. We're going to have Sean Barnard, Philadelphia Sports Network, Fox the Gambler, Pick Swap Media, literally every other. He literally works for 100 different sites. Joining me at 8:30. He's going to help me with this conversation. He does a great job. But right now, we're just getting my thoughts out, getting your thoughts out. So drop your questions, your comments, your thoughts. Sixers, if you want to talk Phillies, we could talk the Phillies as well. But the main question is, I think the main question is, can the Sixers make the Eastern Conference Finals? It's something that literally 4 or 5 days ago, I was on this show, on Twitter, all over social media saying there was zero chance the Sixers could come out of this series victorious against the Boston Celtics. And something happened last night, and I want to know your thoughts on it. Something happened, not last night, on Sunday night, that I just saw a little bit more grit, a little bit more determination, a little bit more want to from this Sixers team. The players, I just saw a little bit more fight, a little bit more desire out of them. And you know, obviously, Joel Embiid had a big game. He looked gassed late in the game, and rightfully so. There are so many people trying to make the narrative of Sunday's victory about how bad Embiid looked down the stretch. When let's talk realistically, Joel did not look bad. He looked gassed. He's playing on a sprained knee that most people would be out for 6 weeks in. You know, a big man of his size playing 46 minutes, of course he's going to look gassed. You know, more people are talking about that than James Harden. Or they're saying, you know, Joel Embiid's not the MVP because he needed James Harden to step up in the final moment. Well, that's kind of what a team is. A team is when one player's down, the other player steps up. When you've got one MVP and one former MVP on your team, if one's having an off night, the other one steps up. You know, I really, really think it's a negative conversation that a lot of the national media. Look, let's not lie. Let's not beat around the bush. The national narrative and the national want and the NBA want and narrative is they don't want the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals. They want the Celtics all the way to the final. They want the Sixers Lakers Finals because that'll equal national TV ratings the most. But it might not be that way. We might be looking at a Heat Sixers Eastern Conference Finals. That's not what the NBA wants. We look at, you know, the awful foul call, you know, not called on Jason Tatum, and then the one called on Joel Embiid, and the NBA Refs Association comes out yesterday and says that they got those calls right. That was not an offensive foul on Jason Tatum. Well, that was a little horseshit. And it makes you less trustworthy when you do that. When it was a clear push off from Jason Tatum. And all you got to do is say, yeah, we missed it. That ref missed it. We've spoken with that referee. We've taught him how to make sure he makes the right call in that situation. End of the story. We all complained for 5 minutes. Hey, you tried to screw us. You couldn't do it. But we move on. But them doubling down on their mistake like that just makes them even more questionable. And the narrative that the NBA doesn't want the Sixers going far is just easily discussed by people. But, I just think that the game as a whole, we had not a big lead, but a double-digit lead for a big portion of the second and third quarter. We gave them chances to come back, and we kept it. And then the Celtics make the comeback at the end, tie the game, and it forces overtime. And the way the series had been going, we're down 2-1. We just gave up a lead, forced into overtime. The Sixers could have easily rolled over and played dead and handed the Celtics game 4 and just ended the series. But they tapped into something extra in that overtime. And yes, Marcus Smart, if he gets that ball a half a second earlier, maybe he makes that shot. If he gets it a half a second earlier, maybe he shoots the ball differently and doesn't make the shot. Who knows? We're this close to losing that game. But we didn't. We won the game. So let's try to look at the positives of winning that game. And people, we always say, like, your record is what it is. Like, people don't look back 5 years from now and say, well, they won 2 games close and they lost 2 games by double digits. No. They just look at the win-loss record. That's all that matters. You get to the Eastern Conference Finals, doesn't matter how you got there. It matters that you got there. And the one thing we talked about with this Celtics team coming into this series was how they looked against Atlanta and the fact that this Boston team on paper, and I still firmly believe this, is a better team than the Sixers. The Celtics are more deep, more talented. Their role players are better. They might not be as top-heavy with Joel Embiid and James Harden. I mean, not taking anything away from Tatum and Brown. Jaylen Brown's having a great series so far. But the Celtics are the better team. Borderline coaching, like Mazzulla, Joe Mazzulla, I put him ahead of Doc Rivers, even though he's a rookie coach. But and he's made some great decisions. Switching Jaylen Brown into James Harden game 2 and 3 was fantastic. But Doc Rivers has had a great series as well, coaching in game 1 and 4. So it's kind of even there. First comment of the day, Marshawn Lynch. What's up, my man? Stephen A. gives the Sixers no chance. Barkley always says my Sixers are in trouble. Nick Friedel and Monica McNutt literally laughed their asses off. No one likes the Sixers. Yeah, I get it. And look, you were watching the show last week. I gave the Sixers no chance. But I'm a flip-flopper. I'm always one to realize that my mistakes, and maybe I jumped the gun on ruling the Sixers done for the season. I said after the 90 seconds of game 3 halftime right before there that the season ended there. Well, maybe I was wrong. Because, it's 2-2. It's basically a best-of-3 series. If James Harden, so and the key to this series going forward, Lynch, for the Sixers to have a chance, you can't expect James Harden to put up 45, 43 points every single night. We also have to hope that he doesn't put up 10 points and have, like, literally the difference between 1 and 4 versus 2 and 3, James Harden. It looked like Houston Harden versus retirement Harden. It was such a drastic difference. There's got to be a James Harden in the middle in these playoffs. And I think if we get in the middle, James Harden, 20 points, 2 or 3 threes, 10, 12 assists, some rebounds, solid even. James Harden's not a defensive player. He's never going to be a defensive of the year candidate. Yeah, big block shot in the game. And his defense, it's suspect, but it's better than people realize at points. If we can get in the middle James Harden tonight, we can win the game. Joel Embiid's still working himself back. He's going to be a little bit better, a little bit less gas today. We can get in the middle James Harden and maybe a little bit more from Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. We could be coming home Thursday night with a chance to clinch this series. And a date with Miami right there on the horizon. Switching Brown to James Harden is hardly an adjustment. I mean, why was he not on him to begin with? Okay, all right, that's fine. He should have been on him from the beginning, but he wasn't. So it was still an adjustment. I mean, clear advantage for the Celtics defensively at every position. That's maybe Joel is a better defender than Al Horford. I know Al Horford gets a lot of love for his defensive prowess and the fact that he has in his career as a whole done well against Joel Embiid. But I kind of see like Al Horford's lost a step, in my opinion, defensively. I really do. And I think you can exploit Al Horford for sure. But outside of that, yes, they have the advantage everywhere. But the fact that Brown wasn't on Harden to start was a rookie mistake from Missoula, but a good decision to make that switch. And you clearly see that James Harden struggled to get past Jaylen Brown in game 2 and 3. Now, was it game 4 that he got into foul trouble, basically, I think early in the game, and he was able to be a little, I think he had 2 fouls in the first few minutes of the game. Hallie ended up with only 3 fouls for the whole game. Well, that's a refereeing question right there. But the fact that is Harden clutch? Well, it was clutch on Sunday. I mean, knocking down the game winner, that's as clutch as you get. But getting him into foul trouble early, Jaylen Brown kind of opened the door a little bit for James Harden to go off again like game 1. And, you know, all you got to do is get that confidence going. Get that confidence going. And things are different. I want to point out a good and a negative, guys. PJ Tucker's quote, or Doc Rivers' quote of what PJ Tucker said in practice before Sunday's game on Saturday. Doc Rivers said that PJ Tucker rallied the team and said, this is the MFer playoffs. Let's go. Playoff PJ Tucker, the leader, what we've been waiting for. And we'll get to his gameplay in a minute. What we've been waiting for, that leader, came out in practice. And Doc Rivers said, I couldn't say that. The coaches couldn't say it. It had to come from him. Well, first off, great and props to PJ Tucker. Props to him. Because somebody needs to light a fire and spark this team. But how can the coach not do that? The coach saying it had to come from a player, not me. Like, Doc is that was another one of those scheduled loss kind of quotes from Doc Rivers. Like, if he would have just phrased it a little differently, maybe I wouldn't have had such a negative connotation towards it. But the way he phrased it made him just made me think even more that he has no say in this team. Like, he plays no role. I am not a third string goalie. I'm number 1. Okay, just so you know. In 2 wins, James has been clutch. Absolutely. In the 2 wins, James has been clutch. But in the 2 losses, he's been complete ghost. And he was not even like a ghost. Like, he has literally been a net negative in those losses. My allergies are killing me today. But there's got to be, with James Harden, there's got to be a common ground in the middle. And let's be honest, Tobias Harris had a great first-round series against Brooklyn. He has been ineffective in this series. If James Harden doesn't have those game 1 and 4s, then we lose a series because everybody else has kind of gone missing. You know, Tyrese Maxey, we know he struggled this year against Boston, but he's still got to do something, and he's done not much. He's been very quiet. That Harden 3 at the end, I mean, I was out at a bar watching the game, and man, that bar just erupted when he nailed that 3. Like, it was just, like, there was only like 5, there's a lot of people at the bar, but only like 4 or 5 people were actually paying attention to the game. But then those last 2 minutes right before he made that shot, dude, that place just went nuts, and it was great. It's great how sports just brings everybody at a bar together. PJ screaming at Joel for being too soft in the moment was refreshing. Everyone coddled these process players, and to see him hold him accountable in the moment was amazing. I love it. That's playoff PJ. Now, playoff PJ's won titles. He's been an effective, member of a lot of playoff teams. But he was stone cold, and he was unplayable through the first 3 games. Like, literally passing wide open threes. They were literally giving him, a first down. Like, it was like sticks defense, Marshawn. You know that. Jim Schwartz sticks defense against him. And literally, he had to be pulled from games because he could not, he would not, he did not want to shoot the ball. Well, he heard it. Somebody got into his ear because, like, I don't want him shooting a lot, but at least he took 5 shots, 4 threes. Only made one, only had 6 points, but at least he was willing to shoot in game 4, and it made a difference. Andrew Luck is off. We can talk Andrew Luck on a football day. That whole thing is gonna grow some legs as it happens. Yeah, it literally, PJ Tucker, his motivation, his leadership, his on-court coaching is great. Yeah, 10 yards. It was Jim Schwartz defense 101 that Boston was playing against him. Sticks defense. I still remember I had when I was on a previous network, I had what's his name? He was like a third string cornerback on this team, on the Eagles. I forget his name. Third string cornerback like 3 years ago. And I goaded him so many times to criticize Jim Schwartz, and he just kept smiling on the screen and would not say a word. I tried so hard to get a off the record comment, and he just wouldn't do it. Hated the sticks defense, but that was what Boston was doing. So PJ Tucker can make those quotes, say this is the MFN playoffs. We got to do this and that. But if he doesn't go out in the court and do it, then his words mean nothing. Him doing it and then coming out and at least taking the shots, diving for loose ball. I mean, the hustle and defense of PJ Tucker, nobody's going to question that ever. But you got to do something on offense. And him following through and being an effective part of the team makes those words he says better. Tough offensive rebound and put back for the and one. It was huge. It really was. It was a great moment, and that's what you get from PJ Tucker. Those tough offensive rebounds, those tough hustle plays, the 50-50 balls. If you want to use an NFL word, he gets that. But in game 2 or 3, that offensive rebound, he doesn't put back. He grabs that rebound and runs it out to the 3-point line and hands it to Harden. At least he put it back this time. Hey, Johnny, there was a stretch late last year, early this year, when I was on another network. We weren't even allowed to call him Doc Rivers anymore because he had lost his degree of doctor whatever he had a doctorate in my opinion. But he's got a decent season. And look, the Celtics are a terrible, terrible matchup for the Sixers. They just are. And yes, I'm not flip-flopping. I'm saying I might have been wrong saying the season was over already for the Sixers. Doesn't mean I think the Sixers are going to win this series. But what I do know now, after going back and rewatching some of the highlights from the Atlanta series, and then watching this series as it's unfolded, this Celtics team is beatable. And I think that's what the key is. That's what we need to take away. That the Celtics are better on paper than the Sixers, but can be beat. And there is a blueprint to do that. Now, did they do anything yesterday in practice in their travels to Boston? Are they going to watch more game film? What are they going to do to be effective in Boston tonight? I don't know. That's going to be the key. What we get out of James Harden, what we get out of Tobias Harris, I try so hard to support this guy. I've been one of the biggest supporters of him since day one of him coming to Philly. And he had a great series in Brooklyn. And I'm like, see, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been hoping for. And then we get the last couple games where Tobias Harris is just a ghost. I mean, was it game 2 or game 3 he got into early foul trouble? So that one was understandable. But the guy it's a bad matchup for him. You know, he's getting guarded by guys that are more athletic than him on a regular basis against Boston. You know, guys that are long, lanky, get their hands in his face so he can't take a clean shot. It is what it is. So we're here 20 minutes into the show. Sean Barnard, Philly Sports Network, and of course, Fox the Gambler will be joining us shortly here on the show to talk Sixers. But there's lots to get into. We have a shot at winning tonight as long as Jaylen Brown continues to fade in the second half because Tatum is doing too much. Look, I'll blame Tatum for the loss the Celtics had. I mean, you think about it, Joe Mazzulla doesn't call a timeout there after we take the lead on the Harden 3. There was about, 12 seconds left in overtime there. Doesn't call the timeout, Mazzulla. Jason Tatum brings the ball up court and literally just stands there. I think he dribbled like 19 times between his legs. Someone did a video and counted. It was like 19 dribbles between his legs. And then passes the ball to Smart, who I'll let Marcus Smart take the winning three-point shot. I know he made it. It just time has expired. I'll let Marcus Smart shoot that three every Sunday and then some. Because why not? The guy's just not, a great three-point shooter. But that was on Jason Tatum for dribbling the ball till there's 1 second left in the game clock and then passing it up to somebody else to shoot the ball as time expired. I think Jaylen Brown would have had a better and more effective game if he didn't get into early foul trouble. Maybe the situation changes a little bit. But that's that. I do want to, before Sean Barnard gets on here, I do want to address, somebody said it maybe in the comments up here. Let me page through here. No, maybe not. Maybe I was thinking something else there was said. But there's been a lot of talk online about the process and what the process was. Yeah, Smart Tatum late game execution. Give it to me all day. I mean, first of all, we'll get to the process back to the process in a second. I mean, first and foremost, Jason Tatum. Does anybody pump their chest more and celebrate more second quarter fadeaway threes than Jason Tatum in the middle of the game and then goes away at the end of the game? Like, literally, the guy thinks every layup, every shot he makes is clutching. Like, he's got a pose on every single shot, and it's so annoying. Like, it's the second quarter with 4 minutes left in the half, and he makes a 2-point, jump shot. Oh, come on. Like, do it when it matters. Whatever. The lack of execution. Look, I want to talk about the process for a few seconds. My guys at Ref the District, a Washington podcast network, great guys. I'll get them on before football season starts here. Trev Stoner, the gang over there. A lot of talk on social media about what the process was and whether the process is a failure if they don't get to the Eastern Conference or the NBA Finals this year. And I want to make sure I get my points out here again on the air about this. The process, as spoken about by the front office, was never about winning a title. The process itself was done to acquire assets to be able to acquire star players, top-end draft picks, and extra draft picks to acquire players. The process worked. The process got you Joel Embiid. The process got you Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. The process got you James Harden. So the process worked. The players and the coaches then that were brought in here did not succeed yet and won't succeed if they don't get to the finals or whatever. But the process itself is something a lot of teams do. Just a lot of teams don't put a cool marketing name and plaster it on T-shirts and social media and hashtag trust the process. And the Sixers and Sam Hinkie and the organization just took it to a new level. The process was successful. The end result of the process succeeding just hasn't. The process failed when Sam Hinkie was replaced. The process ended when Sam Hinkie was replaced. That's the thing. The process did miss on a lot of picks. That is fine. But Hinkie was able to acquire enough assets and future assets so that the Sixers were able to trade for Jimmy Butler. The Sixers were able to trade for Tobias Harris. If the process would be totally different, if after the first season, the first half of the season with Jimmy Butler here, they choose Jimmy Butler over Ben Simmons or Brett Brown or both. If they choose to move on from Brett Brown then, or they choose to let Jimmy Butler continue to run this team, we might have an NBA title. I still believe if they run it back after that season and we keep Jimmy Butler and we keep Tobias Harris and we keep J.J. Redick on the team, we win a title in my opinion. I do. I firmly believe that. But we didn't. They chose Brett Brown. They chose Ben Simmons. They chose to coddle those guys. Then we go out and get James Harden. So the process was successful. Maybe if we have a different coach this year, we're in a different position. The process did not fail. It might not have gotten us the end result, but all the process was. It's exactly what Oklahoma City's doing right now. Oklahoma City had between last year, this year, and next year, 400 first and second round picks in the NBA draft. They literally are building through the draft and acquiring it. They have enough if they wanted to trade for James Harden or Joel Embiid or Tobias. They have so many draft picks to trade. They just aren't calling it a cool, catchy nickname. You got all these young players. We did fail. We missed on Markelle Fultz. And I don't think we missed on Markelle Fultz. Injuries are what they are. We missed on Joel Okafor. That's for sure. Michael Carter-Williams. Nerlens Noel. We missed on a few of them. But we got Joel Embiid. And on paper, Ben Simmons should have worked. Ben Simmons just didn't have it up here. And that's the Sixers organization's fault for not making it a little tougher on him in the early stages of his career here. Maybe keeping Jimmy Butler around would have changed. If Jimmy Butler had to play another full season, a whole offseason with Ben Simmons, would things have been different? Maybe. Yeah, you got your process right here, pal. Yeah, that's what I thought. But anyway, that all was standing. The process wasn't, and I think that's a common misconception, that the process was about winning a title. And hey, if we win a title, everybody's narrative on the process will change, obviously, drastically. But in my viewpoint, and I know I've read this from other people, from people who have spoken to the Hinkies and Hinkies associates, the process was just about assets. And I do feel bad that Sam Hinkie wasn't able to see this through. I think right now this team would look drastically different if Sam Hinkie was still here. The Colangelo situation, complete disaster. And that's the NBA's fault. 110%. And there's going to always be that moment where the NBA tries whole things. So we're gonna cut this off. We're gonna reset again. You're watching Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you follow, you share, you tell a friend, you tell a neighbor, you tell the person on the bus next to you. Trending in the AM, most interactive, best morning show there is in Philly, not just on YouTube, period. My special guest today, joining me on the I Have No Sponsor hotline, good friend of the show, my man, Sean Barnard. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Got a Sixers sitting at 2-2, so I think that helps the vibes a lot. Avoided catastrophe in the last game, but appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to get talking.
I mean, you are now, since the last time I've had you on, you're even busier. Pick Swap Media founder, Philadelphia Sports Network writer, and now part of Fox the Gambler as well. Where do you find time to sleep anywhere in your busy day?
Not much these days, but you know what? It's okay.
You're a young spring chicken. You've got the energy, unlike me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So pushing through. This is the big push for sure. So trying to stay on top of everything, especially this time of year.
So, Marshawn, we'll get back to this process thing. So I'm going to get Sean's comments on this process thing in a little bit. But basically, Sean, I don't know if you caught any of my social media comments last week or my shows last week. I basically had said the season was over for the Sixers. That 90 seconds at the end of the first half of Game 3 was just such a disaster. I thought it was over there, and I got crushed for it. And now, obviously, as typical, I'm flip-flopping. I'm trying to find a glimmer of hope because we've seen James Harden, two totally different Hardens. We've seen what Joel Embiid slowly working his way back to. PJ Tucker. Are you telling me there's a chance that this season and this series is not over and the Sixers do stand a chance?
There's absolutely a chance. I mean, the thing about the Sixers team, and it's been said for a little while now, but they win games that they typically don't. Even that Game 4 win, which came with a collapse and was far from flawless in the execution, that's a game that every year it feels like they can't find a way to come out on top of. I mean, they were down 8 points with under 2 minutes left to play. They were down 5 points with about a minute and a half, and to find a way to scrap back, get the win is all that matters. It is a results-based thing. And Game 3 was absolutely depressing. I was right there with you as far as down in the dumps, frustrated with just how poorly that went. Seeing the drastically different version of James Harden has been wild. And that's pretty much the X factor from here on out. If we get the version of James Harden that showed up in Game 1 and Game 4, I think the Sixers likely win the series. But if it's a guy that is in 2 and 3, I don't think that's the case. And I don't think they have much of a shot. So the core itself, the Joel Embiid and James Harden duo, have been outplaying the duo of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It's just the supporting cast of Boston has been significantly better than the Sixers. So we're going to see how things shake out, but best of 3 series from here.
Yeah, you bring up the Harden in the Game 1 and 4 versus Game 2 and 3. I don't even want Game 1 and 4. I don't want Game 2 and 3. There's got to be a middle ground somewhere. Like, obviously after 45 in game 1, the drop off into game 2 was just like mind blowing. But there's got to be some common ground. Like, we need Tobias and Maxey and some of these other guys supporting cast to step up, because you cannot expect 45 from James Harden every night. But also, we have to hope that the drop off isn't to game 2. What do you is it really that when he goes off for 40, 45, that it just takes so much out of him that he just doesn't have it? Or what it's so drastic, that change.
Yeah, I've struggled to fully put my finger on it, and still I'm not sure what I got. I mean, there's a ton of stats floating around about how much better he is coming off rest days. Like, we saw game 1, how he had just about the longest break that you'll ever get in the playoffs, of like 12 games before he was able to suit up. So his body was fully rested for that. He had his little Vegas trip to get his mind right, I guess, and we saw how that shook out. And then games 2 and 3, like, as much as we are showering this guy with praise, it should not be forgotten. Like, he was very bad in those games. Game 3 specifically, it jumped off the page of a guy who looked unwilling to shoot. He looked in his own head. So the drastic difference is insane in what we've seen. And I'm glad to see him back in game 4. He really did bail out the Sixers team. He bailed out Joel Embiid by coming up clutch in big time, as Embiid kind of faltered down the stretch there, which was really disappointing to see. And he just looked straight up gassed in that stretch. So I don't know what the exact solution is. It's good to see that James Harden at least has this in the tank and can bust it out, but it would be nice if there was like a middle ground, a pretty good game at least. And some of it is the efficiency.
He has to have those big games, because Tobias and Tyrese have been so, I mean, I don't want to say completely MIA, because I mean, Tyrese Maxey still did get up 17 shots in game 4, but you know, they just, he has to do it because these other guys aren't, you said it perfectly. You know, our big 2 are outplaying their big 2, but their supporting cast is way, way better right now than ours.
Yeah.
You know, somebody's got to step up so that James Harden, if James Harden puts up 15 points tonight, you know, somebody else, you know, so that we're not worried that James Harden only put up 15 points. You know what I'm getting at? So, like, you know, is it simply just a bad matchup for Maxey and Harris? Is that the problem? Because at least Harris, I see it as a bad matchup for him.
Yeah, I think both of it. I mean, Boston's a good team. They're a good defensive team. They got a lot of really good defenders who are a lot of size, a lot of athleticism, and outclass the Sixers in all those categories. So it is not a good matchup. I'm kind of the mindset, I think tonight may be a night we get a Tyrese Maxey bounce back game. It's for sure. I mean, the matchup's not going to get any better. These are guys that can just do the job better than most guys trying to guard these guys. And Maxey, the size thing has been rough on him. I've been frustrated with the shot selection from Maxey. It's been a lot worse this series than is traditionally the case for him. He's usually a guy who's pretty intelligent with his decision making on the court, but he's thrown up some poor shots, some deep threes, too reckless driving at the basket, and also just trying guys like Robert Williams in situations where he shouldn't. So I would like to see him settle in. Tobias has been back to bad version of Tobias where he's indecisive.
Preston chiming in saying Tobias is the key, needs to keep him more involved and maybe some more B-ball Paul minutes. Yeah, I'm all for, you know, in a playoff series, your rotation shrinking. And I love that, you know, this is the first year I can remember that Doc Rivers has kept it to 8 or less, you know, in a play. I love that. But Joel Embiid is playing on a sprained knee. He's working his way back and whatnot. The fact that Paul Reed only had, I think, like 6 or 7 minutes in game 4. I mean, I don't believe there's a lot of people, the narrative that Joel Embiid, you know, gassed and crashed at the end of the game. Well, I don't understand what people expected. I mean, he is playing on the sprained knee. He is hurting, and he's a big man. You know, maybe Paul Reed should have played more. So, Preston's comments, what are your thoughts? Tobias and Paul Reed, what would you want?
Yeah, I mean, the more they can get out of Tobias, the better. They absolutely could use it. I totally agree with the B-ball Paul point, and just getting Embiid rest must be a key. For sure, it's playoff time. Stars got to do their job and everything, but you also got to deal with the cards you're dealt, and it's not a 100% version of Joel Embiid right now. He's looked pretty fine on the court. He's looked healthier than I've expected, moving better than I expected, but he definitely crashed and burned down the stretch in that fourth quarter, had just 2 points, and Al Horford really got the better of him, which was frustrating to see. So, yeah, I would like a little bit of more time to make sure he has that 100% juice when it matters most in the fourth quarter for the rest of the series. And Paul Reed's look capable for sure.
Marshawn saying 15 apiece from Tobias, Melton, and Maxey can keep pace with Brogdon and White. I mean, that's asking a lot for all 3 of them to get 15 points, but at least 2 of them getting 15 to 18 would definitely make a massive difference. You brought up Maxey's height. I kind of feel like, and the size difference and all, I kind of feel like that's always going to be an issue. Like, I love Tyrese Maxey. I'm not criticizing him at all. I'm trying to coin the phrase. Nobody's following along. Max money, Maxi. You know what I mean? No one's buying into that phrase that I keep putting out there. But in well-coached defensive teams, he's always going to have these kind of struggles in a best-of-7 series. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he has limitations. He's not a perfect player. The kind of, I guess, distinguishing factor that separates him and allows him to overcome this is still his pace. He's still the fastest guy on the court for sure, even out of these Celtics guys. There's still been moments where he's been able to turn the corner and sneak in a layup, which is a credit to that burst that he has. But yeah, it's going to be an obstacle he has to overcome. And this Celtics team specifically, I mean, I don't think there's a player on the roster below 6'3", 6'4", and that's like a solid 2 inches bigger than Maxey. And all these guys, they have defensive player of the years. They have guys that will be all on the all defensive team and guys that likely would have if they were in other locations. So this team is built to stop guys like that. And it's tough because I don't want to be too hard on Maxey because we know you don't win championships for what your 22-year-olds do, but he's also grown into a role where he's no longer this just like icing on the cake production. He's a vital part of this Sixers team. So they need him to find a way to get something. And I think if they can get him some catch and shoot looks, him to see a couple go in, it could start to get the ball rolling. But I do hope we get a bounce back Maxey performance tonight.
I kind of feel like in the last couple games, the wins and the losses, because of what you're saying, Maxey isn't just this surprise anymore. He's a vital part of this team. I kind of feel like he's been forcing some of his shots. Yeah. Like he feels like he has to get going because no one else, like, I mean, look at it. I'm a big DeAnthony Melton fan. I mean, he had put up a goose egg in game 4. So, he feels like Maxey that he's got to get something. So he's forcing more 3-point shots than he needs to. He's forcing it at the rim more than he needs to. Like, is it simply that he's just got to keep doing that? Or does he, if somebody else steps up, if Tobias starts to make a few buckets, if Melton doesn't miss easy gimme buckets at the rim, that missed dunk or layup or whatever it was, like I have flashbacks of Robert Covington, messing up at the rim, with that one there. Is it simply other people have to step up to take the pressure off of him, or the team's just got to find a way to get him more open looks? Or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think Maxey's going to bounce back. I do have faith in him. Again, a tough matchup. These are things that aren't going to change, the size difference, stuff like that. But I do think he's built with it in the respect that he's going to put each game behind him and be locked in for the next one. He's going to approach this one with a clean slate. The shot selection has for sure been the most frustrating thing to me because that has not been the reputation of him. He's been a guy who's been intelligent, made smart decisions on the way he goes about it, seeks his shot, and runs the offense. That has not been the case this series, and I do think that's him forcing the issue a little bit. Some deep threes that just they'd be better off without. And the attacking the rim out of control is something that's super uncharacteristic. One of the most impressive parts about his game is the way that he's able to get downhill so quick and still be so composed in his finish. There's been a lot this series that have looked rushed or out of control in the way he's got down there. So I still have faith in him to bounce back. I think him seeing a couple just go through the net would help him tremendously mentally. And I think tonight that they're going to make a point to make that happen and try and get him set up with some off-ball looks.
We got two more comments here. We'll get to your Marshawn in a second here. This is why it's more important when you land a McDaniels, you play him and Reed and the other players. Look, I'm all for keeping the roster and the playoff rotation shrunk. I do understand the McDaniels thought in this series against the length and athleticism of Boston. I am surprised he's been kind of eliminated from the rotation last game or so. I'm okay that he stays on the bench to an extent because you want your best players out there the most. And unfortunately, what are you going to do? Are you going to take 15 of Tobias's minutes from McDaniels? I mean, I really don't know where you fit McDaniels in a playoff situation like this.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you asked me at the start of the series, I thought Georges Niang was completely unplayable in this matchup. I didn't think there was a role for him on the floor. To Niang's credit, he's played very well in the minutes that he's gotten, and the Sixers have needed that offensive burst. I like McDaniels, and to me, this matchup specifically is one of the reasons that you make that trade midseason because, as I kind of mentioned in here, these Celtics are overpowering the Sixers in terms of athleticism, height, just versatility, switchability, all these things. The only real solution to that on the Sixers roster is Jalen McDaniels. He's a guy who is 6'9", 6'10". He's quick twitch. He's athletic. He's a lob threat. He can match up with these guys better than pretty much any other option they have. And even looking at like DeAnthony Melton, who's been our best perimeter defender, he's like 6'2" and just struggles against guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So there is some more size there. I would like McDaniels to at least get some sort of run. He didn't look the most comfortable on the court in the opportunities he got early on, so I understand Doc pulling him. but I do think that he's a difference maker in terms of just his skill set and the way that he can match up. So I would like to see it at least for a stretch.
Mark checking in. Sixers are a couple made shots away from being up 3-1, but also 2 misses from Harden from being swept. This is as a whole. I want to get to PJ Tucker because Marshawn brought up PJ Tucker a few moments ago in the comments. But is it more close than people realize? Like, there's a lot of people saying the Celtics, are far better, and then there's people like me saying the Sixers are over, and like there's a big wide spectrum of where this series is in the national and local media. Is it a lot closer than we're really making it out to be, like Mark says?
Yeah, I think it's very close. This is a bloodbath of a series, and I don't think anybody would want it any other way. I mean, you can really make an argument for each game, except for the one blowout, but for each game that, like, it could have gone either way. Even game 3, which the Celtics obviously won, like, Sixers were in a spot to win that for most of that game. It never felt, like, out of control. And game 4, like, the Sixers held a comfortable lead for just about the whole thing before collapsing in the fourth. So, yeah, it does feel like, I mean, basketball's a game of runs. We're 2-2. If you asked me going into the series that we'd be 2-2 after 4 games, I'd be pretty satisfied. Feels like it's been the most improbable route to get there. But, yeah, I think this series is going to be a bloodbath, and that's the way everybody should have expected it.
Mark saying tonight is the pivotal game because you can't win 3 in Boston. That's asking a lot. I mean, I don't know. What if you get to a game 7? I think the key thing here is, and I said this during the Hawks-Celtics series, the Celtics are a better team on paper than the Sixers. You got Tatum and Brown, and you got a much deeper bench and role players. But this Boston team, compared to the last couple of years, seems beatable.
Sure.
I mean, there are holes, and there is a blueprint on how to beat this Celtics team. We just need a few of our other guys to step up a little bit. Do you agree this Boston team is beatable, and is tonight the must-win game?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think this Boston team is beatable, and that's been the most frustrating thing to me. Like when we saw the Embiid injury happen, that this is like the cards have kind of aligned for a run to the finals, and whichever team wins this series, I believe, I don't want to say easily, but they will take down the winner of the Heat and Knicks series, most likely.
You mean the Heat, right?
The Heat.
Let's just say they're taking down the Heat.
Yeah, sure. So I think, like, if you were to rank the Eastern Conference right now, like the Sixers and Celtics are both a notable tier above the Heat and the Knicks in that conversation. So this Celtics team specifically, like, they do have holes. They still make some dumb decisions down the stretch. There's for all the noise about Doc Rivers, I think the Sixers have the coaching advantage in this series. So there are things that swing in the favor, and it's a superstar-driven league. I think James Harden and Joel Embiid have outplayed Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, which is a big deal. And yeah, I mean, this Celtics team is a good team for sure, but not unbeatable, and the Sixers need to take advantage of that. And like I said, the pathway is there if they can just win 2 more games in this one.
It's funny, you said Doc Rivers is doing better than Joe Mazzulla or has the advantage over Joe Mazzulla. I talk all the time. It's like Boston, we talk in Eagles, we're the quarterback factory, or whatever jokes you want to make about any sports team. Like I kind of feel like Boston's like the coaching factory. You literally go from really great coach to really great coach, no matter what the situation is. But I brought up earlier the switch before you were on the show, the switch of Jaylen Brown to covering James Harden, and someone in the comment section brought up, well, why wasn't he covering James Harden in game 1? Now I know in game 4 you got the 2 early fouls. And maybe that's the first thing that Doc Rivers needs to do tonight is to make sure James Harden, whoever attacks Jaylen Brown, create that early foul trouble on him so he can't be as aggressive defensively. And that creates an instant mismatch if you get him in that early foul trouble and he can't be as aggressive.
Yeah, for sure. And that has been, they rolled out Marcus Smart in game 1, who once again is a very pugnacious and good defender. So can't be too mad about that. But Jaylen Brown's definitely made the impact because he has all the advantages over Harden. He's way bigger, he's more athletic, and he's a smart player too. I like Jaylen Brown quite a bit, and I've been arguing that I think Jaylen Brown is the best player on the Celtics team and most important to their play on both sides of the ball. He's outplayed Tatum so far in this series. And as far as Harden specifically and looking for an advantage for the Sixers, there's been a lot of the old school Houston ball where they're seeking out switches. He's been taking care of Al Horford, just giving him the business, and whenever they get a switch, which has been fun to watch. And that's probably the most important thing that I've seen out of Harden in this series is that's been the MO of him throughout his career is he will find the weakest defender on the court and just beat him. And he can do that. He's showing that he can still do that. And that's been the lack of adjustment from the Celtics that I've been surprised is they're giving those switches. They're allowing Al Horford or Robert Williams to be switched out of the perimeter. And those are the matchups that Harden's really been dominating. I believe it's about, I think it was 1.62 points per possession that he's getting in the switch there, which is incredibly efficient offense. And if that continues, Sixers are in good shape.
So let's get to the PJ Tucker here. We had Marshawn a few moments ago saying, can he scream at Maxey and Tobias? Whether it's screaming at Joel Embiid in the game, whether it's the quotes from Doc Rivers about what happened at practice, which I will, on a side note, I already talked about it before you got on the show. I don't like the way Doc phrased it, about talking about PJ Tucker, because it made it seem like he had no control, the wording he used. But PJ Tucker, the way he got in Joel Embiid's ear, the way he's handling playoff PJ Tucker and all that, it's great. But I think the key thing that goes unnoticed is the fact that he was game 2, 1, 2, 3, totally unplayable. At least he actually showed some aggression and some actual on the court play. Like, he backed up the screaming and the fighting with a much better game 4 than he did in the previous few games. And I think that's important. Like, he's got the reputation of playoff PJ, but you got to back it up on the court as well a little bit. And I think he had his best. I know he only had 6 points, but he had his best game in game 4, which was very pivotal on that leadership aspect of things.
Yeah, for sure. And in game 3, Doc Rivers pulled him pretty early in the game.
Absolutely.
That's another little hat tip to Doc there, that I think that was a statement of, like, you have to take these shots because this is how the offense is going to work. Otherwise, everything gets clogged up. And I have noticed a change in PJ since that point. He's looked more willing, and they need him to take those shots. That's just the role. He's a corner 3 specialist. That's been his reputation his entire career. That's what they need him to do. The other thing about PJ, in addition to all the leadership stuff, is it feels like once every game there's like a momentum swinging play that he makes. It's typically like an offensive rebound and a kick out for a 3, or him diving on the floor scrapping for a loose ball. There's like that one moment that it changes everything. And to this point, like I just talked about early on, how this is a different Sixers team, how they play with more toughness, more resiliency. The biggest difference on the roster is PJ Tucker's on it. So there is something to say about like the infectious energy that he brings. And I mean, he's here for a reason. It's one thing to be yelling on the bench to B-ball Paul and getting him fired up. It's a whole nother thing to get in the ear of the MVP of the league and be saying that in front of things. So I've been impressed. I'm happy PJ's in Philly, and I do think that he is extremely necessary on this team from an attitude standpoint.
I think his moment in game 4 was not just the screaming in Embiid's ear. There was that moment, I forget when it was. Was it the fourth quarter overtime when he grabbed that offensive rebound and put the ball back up for the and one?
Yeah,
and
right before that. That was him going over the ear. Was in between the free throw. Yeah, same.
Okay,
sequence.
Gotcha. Game, in game 2 or game 3, he was so unplayable. He doesn't put that back up. He runs that back out to the 3-point line or passes it back up. So you can only so many times can you get into players' ears unless you back it up. And I think that's so crucial. And you brought it up, the fact that he got pulled so early in game 3. I think that really sent a message to him.
Yeah.
But also to the whole team. Like, you got to step up or you're not going to get played. Who do we need that statement being made to tonight? Is it, because Eric says here a few minutes ago, we got to play tonight as it's game 7. We've got to play 2 game 7s because you don't actually want to get 2 game 7 against Boston. So, who needs to be the one that Doc Rivers and PJ Tucker call out and make a statement to? Is it Maxey? Is it Harris? Melton would be great to have a big game coming off the bench.
Yeah, to me, it's Tobias Harris for this one. And I think a pretty clear cut. And the thing I struggle with Tobias is he's obviously solid and does his thing and he is who he is, but there's no distinguishing trait as a basketball player that they need him on the court for. There's not that one standout ability that's like, we need this in the lineup. So while he's solid across the board, does a lot of things fine, like there's a part of me that in certain situations, like Niang, what he's going to bring as far as like going to be a 3-point threat, going to be willing to shoot it the second he gets it. If we want to slide over to McDaniels, how there's more versatility, more defense, more athleticism. There's other guys like that. Or if you want to go small, go with the 3-guard lineup where you have Melton, Maxey, and Harden. I don't hate that either for depending on how many stretches you want to run it. So I don't think Tobias should be as much of a lock in this rotation. There was in game 3, he only played 25 minutes, but he was back up for logging significant minutes in game 4 and has across the series. If he's being unwilling to shoot off the catch and shoot, if he's looking indecisive in his play, I think he's a guy who could use an extended stay on the bench or maybe just PJ Tucker screaming in his ear.
Didn't he get into some early foul trouble as well?
Yeah, so that also contributed.
Played into it in the first half, but he was still pretty unplayable at that point. I was going to bring up one thing, but I'm going to kind of make it 2 different topics here at the same time. getting McDaniel. This series has been very physical. And we talked about how McDaniels has been kind of taken out of the rotation. Even 5 or 10 minutes of Jalen McDaniels, he doesn't have a problem taking fouls. Is there that scenario of maybe putting Jalen McDaniels' athleticism out there? Also, I'm not trying to say play dirty. I don't want anybody. I never warrant playing dirty, but maybe he could bring a little physicality to Tatum and Brown, which at least in the short term maybe slow them down a little bit. Is that something you'd like to see Doc have? Somebody come out there, just having that guy like Marcus Smart, a guy that just plays super uber physical. And that kind of maybe that's why Joel's a little gassed or Harden's a little gassed in some games, that physical play. Maybe McDaniels can do that and be that role on this team in this playoff series.
Yeah, it's definitely been a physical series. I wouldn't call McDaniels the most physically imposing
No,
player,
I
but
know. But
yeah,
he's got the minutes you can waste and the fouls you can waste is where I
absolutely.
go with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the size to me is the biggest pro for getting him in. There's just something different about if we get a switch in a pick and roll where it's Jason Tatum on Tyrese Maxey, where Tatum's got 6-7 inch size advantage versus McDaniels is bigger than Tatum and has the length to swallow him up and is a pretty solid defender. And also is a guy who's not shy to take a 3-pointer if the opportunity is there. He looked a little bit shy in the headlights when he had moments early on in the series. So I get being a little concerned to play him, but he just has characteristics to his game that nobody else in the Sixers team has, and there's a whole lot of Celtics players that have those same things. So I would like to see him just get some shine, move up, and yeah, same thing with Paul Reed, man. I've never had issues with the fouls for Paul Reed because the best case scenario is he's playing 12 minutes in a game, and that's high at this point. So if you want to use all 6 fouls in 12 minutes, be my guest. So
I kind of feel like that if you have a role of a very small window of minutes in a playoff game, you just go all out and just if you commit fouls, who cares? Because when it's overtime, you're not playing in overtime. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you might as well just use them, and that just it doesn't send a message, and I don't warrant that, but it's just excessive fouls do wear you down. Hard fouls wear you down as a player. I want to talk about the refereeing, and I know this is a hot topic around here. And you can question whether there's been a lot of stretches of the series where they've just let both teams play.
Yeah.
But there have also been a lot of ticky-tack fouls called on both sides. And then you have the Jason Tatum push-off in Game 4. And then the NBA referees come out and double down and say, nope, that was a clean play. Do you think it was a clean play? Am I wrong in thinking that it was clearly a foul and clearly a push-off? And how awful it makes the NBA look that the refs are not. It would have simply been so easy for them to just come out and say, the guy missed it. The ref missed it. We spoke to him. He'll make the adjustment. He'll be better in Game 5. I would have respected the NBA and the refs more if they would have said that versus, no, that wasn't a foul.
Yeah, I think, and the Marcus Smart charge or the Joel Embiid charge on Marcus Smart, I also think they got wrong. And both of those are massive calls within the game. And yeah, game-changing calls that they reviewed the Marcus Smart one, I think still got it wrong. And then they went and reviewed both of them in the post game and released the next day and still stood by them. So they somehow gave all that review, and I still think they got both wrong. It has not been a model series referee-wise. There's been a lot of things that have been weird decisions. And Doc, I like to see Doc got pretty fired up about the Tatum call specifically after that game. I like to see that. I like that he is holding it accountable, letting it known he'll take the fine, whatever.
And
so
they take the fine and make a statement. But the fact that it just really irks me. I always I admit when I'm wrong. If I have a bad opinion, I said the Sixers season was over. I admit it to start this show. I was wrong. They still stand a chance. Just admit that you're wrong.
Yeah.
You can gain more respect and more fans. Like a casual fan watching that game is gonna realize that. And then you come out and you double down on it. It makes no sense to me. And the consistency of the refs, I don't like to blame refs for a series, or a game, right? I hate using the refs or umpires in baseball or football. I hate making it about the game or the refs. But it's been so inconsistent, in my opinion. There's 20-minute stretches where you can literally bulldoze a player and not get called. And then there's 5 minutes where literally you put your hand on their hip for 1 second and it's a technical foul. You know what I mean? It's there's no consistency with this ref crew.
Yeah, for sure. And Marcus Smart seems to have gotten the benefit of the doubt across the board, which if there's one guy who should have a reputation about not getting that and his track record for flopping and for the excessive stuff that goes on in his game. So it's been surprising to me to see him get just about every call. A lot of like the little tangles or guys getting caught up. Marcus Smart's gotten the benefit of. Yeah, it's been frustrating. And another thing that has jumped off is the James Harden fouls on 3-pointers have absolutely disappeared. And
Absolutely.
like the landing space call is a real thing. That's called across the board in the NBA. It's been a point of emphasis. And I get Harden like took advantage of this for a long time, and I think that's the reason why. But it still happens. Robert Williams got him last game where Harden came down on the ankles, and it should have been a call. So as much as like I get he's used it plenty of times in the past, if it happens, it happens. So I'd like to see that paid
Yeah, I
attention
mean,
to
it's
too.
kind of crazy that James Harden isn't getting like you just talked about Marcus Smart not getting the benefit of the doubt or getting it because of a flopper that he is, or it's not like Paul Reed taking a hard foul. It's James Harden, one of the 60 or 70 greatest NBA players of all time, and Steph Curry gets that called every single time. You would think James Harden is in that same class and category, and I know he's used it to his advantage before, but there's something strange that he's not getting benefit. And I know there's the conspiracy theorists out there that say the NBA doesn't want the Sixers in the finals. The NBA doesn't want the Sixers winning. And you know what? There's an argument to be made there, but I don't buy into conspiracies. At least I try not to. It's really odd that James Harden isn't getting some of those calls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And again, I don't really know what the fix is. We just kind of got to hope for better refereeing. But yeah, it's been frustrating. And this has been a theme for Harden of late that he's no longer it's amazing he went from a guy who's arguably the best grifter and guy getting the free throw line in the league to getting one of the worst whistles in the NBA right now. So hopefully there's a little bit of a pushback for these past couple games. We can't be relying on the refs anyway. But yeah, it's been disappointing.
Yeah, wearing that Sixers jersey makes the refs swallow the whistle. That brings me up to something here I want to spend a few minutes with you about. And a lot of people have been talking, a lot of national or non-Philly people have been talking about the process.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, because of this series, and it did look grim at one point. We got 4-1-3 saying the series is over. Don't worry about it. Sixers have lost already. I don't know if 4-1-3 is a Boston area code. I don't know if he's a Boston guy or not. Whatever. The whole process thing, yeah, the process documentary, Marshawn, is going to be. I want to see the ESPN 30 for 30 on the process for sure, and I want to hear Sam Hinkie go complete like free, say whatever he feels like. That would be great. But the process, in my opinion, Sean, has not been a failure, and this series does not make it a failure or a success. In my opinion, the process was solely about one thing: acquiring assets to acquire star players. It didn't matter the end result. I say that if they lose this series or they have to blow it up after the season or whatever, the players and the coaches are what failed. But the Sam Hinkie process was successful, in my opinion. I think people don't understand what the process truly was about. Oklahoma City is doing the process. They're just not putting a cool marketing nickname and hashtag to it. The Sixers marketed the losing to sell tickets, and that's why they are failed. And the NBA, there might be a little bit to that the NBA is frustrated with how the Sixers handled their process, that they kind of, you have Colangelo, Barnard, all that stuff. There's so much goes into it. Is the process a failure, in your opinion, if they do not win the series?
No, it's absolutely not a failure, and I'm a process guy forever. If anything, it was incomplete and interrupted because it didn't get to be played out the way Sam Hinkie had imagined it, and that I absolutely believe would have worked. If anybody catches blame for this, it is Colangelo and the rest of the front office blunders that cost this team. I mean, when we look at the mismanagement of assets that were stockpiled by Sam Hinkie, it's pretty insane reflecting on that. But the bottom line is the point of the process is to get one of the guys that can carry your franchise. And Joel Embiid absolutely fits that category. One of the best players in the entire world and a player that every single night that he's on the floor, they have a chance to win. So that's what it's about. We know with basketball that one player can make a difference more than any other sport, especially you look in these playoffs, the way one guy can just take over and carry a team. That's what it was about. It was about getting bites of the apple, trying to find that guy, and they got it in Joel Embiid. So yeah, it's absolutely
not only Embiid. Like they got the assets to get Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
And then that didn't work out. So they had more assets and they got James Harden. So they've been able to pair multiple big stars with the big star they acquired. So in my opinion, the process ended as soon as Hinkie got fired and Colangelo came here, whoever's fault it is. And
Mhm.
it just, I blame Colangelo. I blame Elton
For
Brand.
sure.
I blame Daryl Morey. I blame Doc Rivers. I blame Brett Brown. I blame everybody else, not Hinkie and what the process was about.
Yeah, for sure. And Hinkie's definitely not at fault. He didn't get to see his vision played out, and I still believe in it. And it was well on its way. And as you manage, still was a success in the way that they did ascend this assets. And this is all without acknowledging that Ben Simmons, who was supposed to be the co-star to Joel Embiid's guy, if there's an inch of competitive drive in his head, and he continues on the athletic trajectory that he was already on and should have been on, the Sixers likely have a championship by now. So there's a lot of things beyond our control and beyond Hinkie's control or anybody, that there's so many outside factors to this. But yeah, it absolutely should never be considered a failure. And I really wish it got played out start to finish the way that Hinkie imagined it.
I have to talk to you out there. I want to sit down and do a project with somebody, and it's something that is extremely detail oriented. Go through every move that the Sixers made from Hinkie being fired to now, and look like, all right, so this person was drafted. Well, who else was there? If Hinkie was here, what would it like? Do the whole entire process from then to now, and say, what would Hinkie have done in this situation? I think it'd be interesting to find out, what this team could look like. 413 saying you got to play faster. That's the answer to everything. And Maxey is that guy. What's funny is that Simmons was not Hinkie's pick. Was he not?
I believe he still was, and he definitely got the pick.
Maybe Sam Hinkie was outvoted on that. I don't remember. I have to go back and double check on that. The NBA might be in for the slowest Eastern Conference Finals of all time if the Sixers win the series and they play the Miami Heat. That is not what the NBA wants, Sixers versus Heat. That'll be the slowest half-court offensive basketball series there will be. But that might, like we keep talking, the Sixers need more athleticism. I want more players like Toronto has, long, lanky guys that can run the floor and do multiple things. We might get Sixers versus Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, which is completely countering that point right there. Are you there? Did I lose Sean? I think I lost Sean. You there, buddy? I think I lost him there. I don't know what happened there. Well, when you get your mic back, work. We'll fire through some of these comments while we're waiting for it. Are you there?
Yeah, I think I'm back now. You hear me all good?
Yeah, I got you. Something happened there. I don't know what happened there.
Gotcha.
But so anyway, the slowness of that series. What are your thoughts, real quick, before we get back into the Sixers? The fact that the Heat are about to win that series. The Lakers, look like they're going to be advancing. It's really surprising what's going on in the NBA playoffs right now.
Yeah, I mean, the playoffs have been terrific as a whole. The quality of basketball, the surprisingness on a night. The Heat are blowing me away with, this is a team that I basically expect to get swept by the Bucks in the opening round. And part of that is a testament to how much a difference one guy can make. Jimmy Butler has been right up there with the best player across the entire playoffs, and just his will to win and competitive drive has taken this team. And they just kind of, are hitting shots now. They were the 27th ranked 3-point shooting team in the regular season. That's flipped on his head. It feels like they're knocking down everything, and they just find a way to get production. So they have a system that works. They have guys that fill it, and it's been impressive stuff. And I'm now bought in that this Heat team is at least somewhat legitimate.
Yep. And what about the Lakers? I mean, I did say before the playoffs started that it was either going to be the Lakers or the Suns playing in the NBA Finals, and I'm looking like there's a chance that happened. Like, who would have thought 38-year-old James Harden, made of glass Anthony Davis, and was it Reeves last night that had the big game in the fourth quarter?
Lonnie Walker.
Lonnie Walker had the big game last night. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's crazy to see what the Lakers are being, are doing right now.
Yeah, it for sure is, and they're a talented team.
It's a really good team in Golden State as well.
Yeah, for sure. And credit to Rob Pelinka for the moves he made at the deadline, completely changing the makeup of that team and finding ingredients that fit together in a way better way than it was for the first half of the season. They have a ton of depth, and they kind of lack one of my concerns that I've had with them going into these playoffs is my question was always, who's the Lakers' third best player? And it kind of changes on a night-to-night basis. But the fact that they have guys that step up and fill that, whether it is Austin Reeves, whether it is Lonnie Walker, Roy Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, all these guys that kind of find their way on a night-to-night basis, they're getting the production. And Anthony Davis, in many ways, have been the Lakers' version of James Harden in the way that when he's been good, he's been awesome. And when he's been bad, he's been really bad. So if he can stay healthy and stay playing at a high level for an extended period of time, you can't count this team out. So it's been fun basketball over there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, back to the Sixers. So, before we even worry about the Heat, and the Knicks, we still got to win the series. And one thing that we've talked about a lot on this show is that this is the same, like my Facebook memory from this week, this show today, on this date last week, was Sixers win game 4 to even up the series 2-2. And we know how it all went on that last year. It's like literally every single day, the same thing seems to be happening this year as last year.
Mhm.
And we keep talking about this book has been read. But I said something a couple weeks ago. Maybe the book has been read, but just not been completed. Is your confidence level getting better that this team can change the narrative and actually complete? Like, the story hasn't been finished.
Mhm.
We don't have to blow things up. We can advance past this Celtics team. Are you still on the side that maybe the story just isn't complete yet?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot at stake in this series for sure. And I think if they don't find a way to win this, that there still could be some major changes on the horizon. But there still should be reason for optimism that the Sixers team can win this series. I mean, there's more to unravel within the Sixers team too. We haven't had a game where Joel Embiid full out takes over yet. We haven't had a game where Tyrese Maxey has played particularly well, and those are two things that could absolutely change the trajectory of a game in favor of the Sixers, and could very well happen even tonight. So they are finding a way. There hasn't been a guy like James Harden to bail out this team, and I know calling him clutch is not the reputation that he's always had, but he has been this series for sure and answered that call. So I do have optimism. They're sitting 2-2. We're in a best of 3 series right now. If you asked before the series, you'd feel pretty good right now. So they just got to find a way to win 2 out of 3, and I'm not counting them out.
Yeah, I'm looking at the line from tonight's game, and I know you're over at Fox the Gambler now.
Yeah.
Big time. You're on the radio every week now. I kind of feel like the Sixers getting a little disrespected with the line tonight, being a 7.5-point dog right now. I think the money line. Let me pull that back up. They're plus 250 on the money line. The fact that this is a 2-2 series. I know that the Celtics wins have been bigger than the Sixers wins against the team, and I know the Sixers collapsed late in the fourth quarter there. But do you think there's in a gambling sense of it, that there's a little disrespect still going on out there on the Sixers team? Or is this because of the way the series is played out in the season and the past history of this team that, that's why that this disrespect is happening?
Yeah, I was surprised to see the line that big, as you said.
I
They're
don't know
definitely.
I'm looking on ESPN's website right now, what they've got on their GameCast. So I
No,
don't
yeah,
know where they pull their GameCast, odds from. So
yeah, no, you're correct with it. That I'm just surprised that's where Vegas put it. I guess the thinking is kind of that the Celtics do have potential to blow out the Sixers. The Sixers don't really from the Celtics. Like, and we kind of saw that in game 4, that if it was going to happen, that was going to be the time where the Sixers step on the neck and make it a big game. That did not happen. The Celtics are capable of that. So I guess that probably swings the points up a little bit. But I do think that this is going to be a hard fought game tonight. And I like the Sixers to cover that at the minimum. I'm not counting them out to steal a game. I think it's very much on the table. My gut tells me it's probably Celtics win game 5, Sixers win game 6, and then game 7 is where all the marbles are on the table. But yeah, I am surprised that it's that significant, and clearly that Vegas is not bought in on the Sixers team.
So if that happens the way you described it, and they win tonight, the Celtics, Sixers win game 6, and we go to a game 6, I don't care whether it's wins and losses by 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever. If you get to a game 7 in NBA, MLB, NHL, game 7 of playoffs are.
That's what it's about.
There's nothing better than a game. I was at the Sixers, I forget, or the Flyers Penguins game 7, or Flyers Bruins game 7 years ago. I mean, just the atmosphere at a game 7 it's intense. It's an intense moment of sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how will you feel about this Sixers team in just a one-off game 7? Like, I think that I would be extremely nervous. I want them, as Mark said earlier in the show in the comments, they need to win tonight and game 6 and wrap this up, because it's really tough to win a game 7 on the road, especially, say whatever you will about the Celtics. The Celtics are a great team, and it's hard to win that game against a great team on the road.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be the easiest challenge, but I'm not counting out this team. I do think there's a different mentality. I do think that they have the best player on the floor in Joel Embiid, and James Harden has been for stretches. They get some guys that step up. You can't doubt it. And this Celtics team is very good, but they're not unbeatable by any means. So that would be amazing. It would be a hectic and stressful night in Philadelphia, but I would love to see it if that's how it goes down.
What is the schedule? Like, if it goes the way you play it out,
Be Sunday.
it would be Sunday. I was
Yeah.
just looking up. I didn't even know when the next. So Tuesday, Thursday, and then we'd get Friday and say, all right, Sunday. So, man, I don't know if I'd want that. I kind of want them just to get it over with and win game 5 and 6 and just let's be done. It looks like the Heat are going to wrap that series up pretty quickly. So you don't want to be pushing it to game 7 anyway, because you want that break. So your final prediction for tonight? Are you sticking to it? That do you think the Celtics win tonight and the Sixers save the season on Thursday?
I think unfortunately that's how it goes. I obviously would prefer if the Sixers win tonight and on Thursday and get this done in 6, but I don't think I see the Celtics team rolling over quite like that. I think they most likely come in much more focused after an overall pretty poor game 4 from them. So I do think that they're going to have a better game tonight. I think it's going to be competitive and a close game throughout, but I lean toward the Celtics winning tonight and for us to have to get it back in Philly.
Give me one thing that happens tonight, and that is why the Sixers win the game. Like James Harden scores 45 in game 1. That is why we won game 1. Tobias Harris scores pretty much no points in game 3. Why we lose it? What is the one thing that happens tonight that causes the Sixers to win or lose the game? And that one thing.
I think tonight we get a bounce back performance from Tyrese Maxey. I think there's a spurt in the game where he starts feeling himself again and is back to the player that we've seen throughout his Sixers career. And I think that there's a injection of life and energy that he brings. He knocks down a couple threes, has a couple nice finishes, and that sways the game in the Sixers' favor for at least a stretch of time. So I feel like he's due for that to happen, and I think it's going to be tonight.
Yeah, 413 talking about Maxey's speed. We did see that, and it's just the size. It's getting him to the rim and downhill, but smartly, so that he's not forcing up shots in bad times and stuff like that. Like, you're a young guy, Sean. Maybe you don't remember. Two totally different players. But I always compare Maxey's speed and ability to get to the rim like rookie and very young Derrick Rose. Two totally different players. But there was never a defender that could stay in front of, Derrick Rose when he was a rookie. And, he would just get to the rim with that burst of speed. That's what I see from Tyrese Maxey. He's got that burst of speed. You just got to do it at the right moment. You got to get him up, get him on the switches and do whatnot. How do we survive the next coming games? I have no idea how I survived game 4. Let me tell you something. It was the first game of this playoff series that I watched out in public. And, man, you had a bar full of strangers cheering on the edge of their seats during that overtime. So it's great to see the Sixers pulling the fans together. Sean, so obviously you got Pick Swap Media, Philadelphia Sports Network, and now The Gambler. What do you got going on this week? When will you be on the radio? Where are you going to be this week?
Yeah, I should be on today on at some point between 3 and 6 for the Daily Ticket with Sean Bryce. So we calling in, talking some Sixers there. Dropped a little breakdown after game 4 on Pick Swap Media. You can check that out a little more in depth on each of the guys on the Sixers. And yeah, we'll be cooking up some writing stuff on the radio across the week. So a little scattered right now, but follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1 to keep with it all. And I'll be busy.
You are one of the busiest man. I'm jealous. I mean, like, I love it. I love to see people. I mean, we've been working together on shows for a long time, so I love to see the success. And Sean Barnard and the Daily Ticket is a great show. If you guys aren't watching it, you should definitely check it out. It's online, it's on the radio, it's everywhere. So, Sean, thank you very much for coming on this morning. I greatly appreciate your time and waking up this morning for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you for having me, and hopefully next time we'll be in good spirits about the Sixers.
Hopefully next time it's because I have you on because we're in the Eastern Conference Finals.
That's right. Yeah, I hope that's the case.
Yeah, we will. You're not coming on if we don't make the Eastern Conference Finals. I want the next show to be the Eastern Conference Finals show with you.
All right, I love it. I hope that's the case for sure.
All right, Sean Barnard at Sean_Bernard1. Thank you very much, my man. Have a good day.
Sounds good. Talk soon.
All right, let's reset real quick. We'll get back to the comments in a section. Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Like, share, retweet, follow all social media platforms. Tell a friend, tell everybody. The most interactive show there is on YouTube, Facebook, wherever it may be. I'd greatly appreciate everybody telling a friend, doing whatever. After game 1, I came here and said if we are due to be on the other side of a team meltdown 4 games in and the Celtics have 2 blown opportunities, the Celtics have blown an opportunity to capture the series. If they win game 4, this series is over at this point. Pound that like button. That is right. I don't know how many people have liked the show so far today, but there should be a lot more than I think my screen over here says 9 likes. Dude, there should be at least 15, 20, 30 likes on this so far with the amount of people that tuned in. And I appreciate you, Marshawn Lynch. I really do. And you checking in, everybody. Johnny, Eric, 413. Real quick, we got about 15 minutes left in the show. If you want to keep talking Sixers, we'll keep talking Sixers. If you want to talk Eagles, put whatever you want in the comment section. I'll address whatever you put in there. But for the time being, I want to talk a few minutes about our fighting Phils and the fact that the Phillies ended their losing streak. Again, we didn't do a show yesterday on Overreaction Monday. We did. So it's the first chance I've had to talk Phillies in about 4 or 5 days. And they were able to get the win and break their 6-game losing streak on Sunday. And how did they do that? It was really easy. 9 likes is completely unacceptable. I appreciate that. This is my passion, my fun. Sorry I missed the show yesterday. 430 pizzas needed to be made. I was in cooking at 7 a.m. yesterday at my pizza shop. So I greatly appreciate the support. Sorry I missed yesterday. That's why we're doing 90 minutes today. So we have enough time to get through all the Sixers talk, all the Phillies talk. Thursday, the schedule gets released. So Friday, we'll be breaking down the Eagles' schedule. Tomorrow, we'll be recapping tonight's game. Whatever else, we'll get into more Phillies talk. Phillies get the win on Sunday. 6-1, I believe the final score was. Let me switch. Yeah, 6-1 over Boston. They break their losing streak. They're 16-19. They start a 2-game series against the Blue Jays tonight. And how did they get the win on Sunday? It's crazy. I get criticized all the time for criticizing Rob Thompson. I appreciate that. I try to bring the energy. It's tough. Waking up at 6:37 a.m. every day, working a 12-hour day at the pizza shop, and coming on here and doing this. That's why the more people, the better that tune in. I live off of you guys commenting. We won because the guy I criticized, Rob Thompson, finally, the light bulb. He hears the news. Kyle Schwarber hitting 170 or whatever it was over his previous whatever games. He was 1 of 25 or whatever. Finally, dropped down in the batting order. There was no reason for Kyle Schwarber to be put in the leadoff spot when Bryce Harper came back. And he struggled it, and he kept putting him out there. Drops him down in the 5-hole, put Bryce and Stott back in the leadoff spot. Bryce and Stott only went 1 for 4. But guess what? Kyle Schwarber went 2 for 3, home run, 3 RBIs. RBI single, 2-run home run. Whoa, would you look at that? Doing what you're supposed to with the lineup actually worked. And we had Kyle Fisher from Philadelphia Sports Network on Tuesday, I think it was last week, or Wednesday, and he brought the stats to prove that Kyle Schwarber is better in the 5 or 6 hole than the leadoff spot throughout his career. I know the leadoff hitter only hits leadoff once a game, whatever. But no, you put your RBI, your run-producing people, down in the lineup so when there's people on base for them to drive in. And when you got Castellanos hitting the way he's doing and getting on base, Bryce Harper back, Trey Turner looks to be turning that corner. Those guys are on base, and all of a sudden, one of Kyle Schwarber's home runs is not a solo shot. It's a 2-run home run. He could beat the shift now, driving a run on a single. When he's in that leadoff spot, that stuff's not happening. And I still will go. You need speed in the leadoff spot. Absolutely. You need people that see pitches, Kyle, in the leadoff spot. Bryson Stott works. Even if he gets out, he sees 8, 10, 12 pitches at bat. Kyle Schwarber's up there just hacking away. And right now, I know he had a great game on Sunday. We'll have to see 2 or 3 games to see if he's bust out of his slump or not. Kyle Schwarber is a strikeout machine. You cannot have. I think I saw a stat at one point he had like 200 at bats and like 45 strikeouts or something like that. Insane amount of strikeout. Like his strikeout percentage is so high. You can't have that in the leadoff spot. You can get by with it in the 5 or 6 hole, but you can't have that in the leadoff spot. And I'm going to say it right now. Rob Thompson will be the manager no matter what for the entire season. But we will not return to the World Series this year with Rob Thompson as our manager. I know. I'm a Rob Thompson hater. If Mark's still in the comment section, you'll say I just hate Topper. I just see it. Like we were, 22-28 or 21-29 under Joe Girardi before he was fired. We are basically right on par with that again. Lots of winning streaks, lots of losing streaks. Inconsistency. No fire in this team. Bryce Harper back helps. We have such a pitching problem. We also won on Sunday because Taijuan Walker put out his best start of the year as a Philly. Did not walk a batter. One of his biggest issues this year. He's got 2. He gives up home runs and he gives up walks. Well, he gave up a home run on Sunday, but nobody was on base because he did not walk a batter. Lately this year, he's been walking batters, then giving up the big home run. Taijuan Walker did not do that. Now, we will get reinforcements really soon. If you look at the schedule for the Phillies, and look, they had a day off yesterday. So they had a day off on Thursday, day off on Monday. They have Thursday off as well, again. So they only need 4 starting pitchers for most of this next week or two. Matt Strahm, I didn't even hear the news. I must have missed it last week. Matt Strahm was put right back in the bullpen, had 2 really good innings in relief on Sunday, which was great. And that's where he was brought in here to be. I would have loved to have seen him get stretched out. I know he's not a starting pitcher. Whatever, he was one of our most consistent pitchers. Whatever. We don't need that 5th starter. Bailey Falter is looking terrible right now. But there's every single game for the next 2 weeks, there's a starting pitcher listed on the Phillies, schedule right now, except for next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is left blank. So the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the next 9 games have a pitcher listed. Next Tuesday, May 16th in San Francisco, there is no pitcher listed. That is when we probably get the reinforcements of Ranger Suarez back in the rotation, which is going to be a boost. You still got a Bailey Falter situation. I did read a great article. My man, I had him on last week. Adam Mack, always reporting on the minor leagues for the Phillies. Mick Abel has looked damn good in Reading so far this year. Had a rough first start, but looked damn good. Maybe he's an option until Andrew Painter comes back. Bailey Falter needs to be replaced pretty soon, it seems like. Nolan Smith is my favorite rookie. More than Jalen Carter. Interesting. Nolan Smith, I can't believe we got him at 30. Still, Eric. I still can't. And Nolan Smith is like a luxury. It's like you've got a Rolls Royce, but you want a Ferrari in your garage as well. Because we've got Hassan Reddick playing that same position. We've got Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. We have such a great defensive line. And then you add Nolan Smith on top of it. You just took a team that got 70 sacks last year, and you throw Nolan Smith on it as well. I mean, you lose the 10, 11, whatever it was, sacks that Javon Hargrave had, but you're throwing Jalen Carter in the middle and adding Nolan Smith. We're not going to miss a beat. It's crazy. I love it. Back to the Phillies for a second. They still have these issues. Nolan is a future leader on this team. And this is where I love about this show, guys. I could bring up one topic. You guys put something else in the comment. We're going to address it. Future leader of this team, Nolan Smith. I don't know, Kyle, enough of his personality. We'll learn this summer through OTAs and training camps and stuff like that. We'll start to learn his personality a little bit. Was he that leader on the Bama defense? I mean, you think about it. Not Bama, Georgia defense. That Georgia defense, I mean, got half their defense on our team now. I mean, there's just so many elite players on that defense. What was more dominant? The names that have gone off that Georgia defense: Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, and the list goes on and on. All these super talented players that are all 1st and 3rd round picks in the NFL, they're all on the Eagles, or that Alabama wide receiver core that Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Eric or Jalen Waddle, and I forget who the other name was. You had 4 NFL wide receivers on Alabama's team, and you have 5 NFL defensive starters on the Georgia team. It's crazy there. But I don't know if he's a leader or not because I just don't know enough about his personality, Nolan Smith. We'll find out about it. And look, Brandon Graham, don't got much time left. Fletcher Cox, not much time left. So there is going to need to be somebody that steps up on the defense. Darius Slay, James Bradbury. I know they just signed new extensions and stuff, but they're north of 30. Who is going to be the future leader of this defense? I would sway more towards Nakobe Dean. I think linebacker is an easier position to be that to lead. Safety, maybe it's Sidney Brown. I know a lot of people are comparing Sidney Brown to Brian Dawkins. We did the same thing about Kayvon Wallace, though. So I'm going to hold off on the Jalen Brown, Brian Dawkins, or Sidney Brown, Brian Dawkins conversation. Maybe it is Nolan Smith, though. And I said a linebacker is easier to be a leader. I guess technically Nolan Smith is a linebacker. And technically, Howie Roseman did draft a linebacker in the 1st round. Maybe it is him. I don't know. We'll learn about that though in the coming weeks for sure, in my opinion. I think. Excuse me. Isn't rookie OTAs happening right now? Or maybe it's the OTAs kept the volunteer. Something's going on down at the NovaCare complex this week. Maybe it was the 8th, 9th, or 7th and 8th, something like that. I'll have to go online, do some reading. It's been a very hectic week at the pizza shop, so should be getting some more free time here in the coming days to catch up on some of the articles and stuff like that from the great content creators and writers and beat reporters out there. I'll have some time in the next couple of days to catch up on that. But Phillies, they play tonight against the Blue Jays. You got Aaron Nola back on the mound against, I don't even know how to say the guy's name. Aaron Nola pitched a little bit better again, but again, still not Aaron Nola. He's had one game this year where he's given up under 3 runs. We need more from Aaron Nola. And is tonight the night? I don't know. Is this win on Sunday going to start a little bit of a run? You got Alek Manoah. And something I see instantly when I just look at stats, he's got a 1.65 whip, Manoah. Last time he went up against a guy this year. Rookie OTAs are going on right now. Yeah, it was either the 8th, 9th, or the 7th, 8th. I forget what the dates were. So it's obviously still going on right now. Every time we seem to go up against a pitcher that gives up a lot of base runners, the Phillies bats go cold. Now we got Bryce Harper back in the lineup, and Bryce Harper, obviously I was wrong on that one, does not need rehab assignments because outside of his first game where he went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, which I predicted 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, I was close on that. Since then, he's been unstoppable. Getting on base, hitting, had his first home run this past weekend. Doing Bryce Harper things. It's fantastic to see. And maybe that is the jolt that this offense needed. But pitching. This Phillies team has a serious pitching issue. Even if Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler level out a little bit and get back to somewhat of a quality form, you still got the Bailey Falter. We've only had one good Taijuan Walker outing. You're getting Ranger Suarez back. But how much can you expect from a guy, Ranger Suarez, that has arm issues? Like, you don't want to push him too hard. Ranger Suarez was never a guy to go deep into a game. And he had arm issues already this year that has kept him out the entire season. So you're not going to push him. So you're going to have Ranger Suarez going 4 innings, maybe 5. And Matt Strahm maybe piggybacks there to ease things along. Pitching. Dave Dombrowski's got to do something. If it's not calling up Mick Abel, who, again, he pitched this weekend, lights out. Outside of his first, if you take his first game of the season out in Double-A, I think he's pitching to a sub-1 ERA, or sub-2 ERA. The rest of the season, maybe you give your second best pitching prospect a shot. I mean, why not? I mean, he's 20, 21, 22, something like that. Just like Andrew Painter, young kid. He's hanging his fastball out there at 95, 96 every game. Maybe you go that route instead of Bailey Falter. You give him a shot. We'll see. The Phillies need some pitching. Dave Dombrowski needs to do something. Look, we're going to wrap up Training the AM right there. Almost an hour and a half. One of my longest shows ever here on Philadelphia Sports Network. If we get great comments and great interaction, we'll do more 90-minute shows. I have no problem getting up an extra 20 minutes early, getting on here and doing 30 extra minutes, but just make sure you like, you subscribe, you pound that like button. As Lynch says, we're up to 11 likes. Hey, thank you. See, Marshawn, you said something? I got 11 likes on my screen now. Hey, look at that. I appreciate that. The more people that tune in on a daily basis, the more I could do, the more this all works. I'm also looking for somebody to make some new intro videos for the show. If you know anybody that does videos, I could use a video for this show and Fairway to Heaven. There will be no Fairway to Heaven tonight. Sorry. Sixers playoff game takes precedence over fantasy and gambling golf. Be back next week on that. You want 90-minute streams? I'll do 90-minute streams, but we need the people to tune in, and I need the comments. I don't have any other guests lined up this week, so they'll all be – I know, Johnny, you hate guests when I have guests on this show. No more guests scheduled. Maybe you never know what's going to happen. No more guest schedules. Maybe I'll bring somebody on to talk the Eagles schedule on Friday. We'll see about that. We'll see what happens. I'll tap into the Philadelphia Sports Network crew to see if somebody wants to come on Friday to talk the schedule. Otherwise, we'll break that down. You won't get a record prediction from me. For anybody who's new to my work, I will not predict the Eagles schedule till before game 1. Not going to do it. I got to see the finished product before I make a prediction. Yes, Wyndham Clark. The first time I don't bet Wyndham Clark. I have bet him every single tournament this year. And I don't bet him this week, and he wins. 75-1, I think, was his odds entering the week, Kyle. What the F happened there? God damn, that pissed me off. I did have a good week, though. I had hit some top 20s and stuff like that. So, I had a decent week this past week. We'll be back next week. We're moving Fairway to Heaven to Monday nights. Tuesday nights are tough. I always work late on Tuesdays. So Fairway to Heaven's going to be moving on Mondays. Next week, PGA Championship. Great week to debut. New day, new time. But, yeah, everybody have a great Tuesday. Let's get that win, Sixers, tonight. Let's get a Phillies win. We'll be back to an hour-ish broadcast tomorrow, back at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Lots of things happening. Make sure support local podcasters. Best way to do that. Share, like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend. You're on the train. Tell a friend. Tell somebody. Tell anybody. Scream it to the world. Trending the AM, the best, most interactive show in Philly, where your thoughts matter, where your comments matter. And like Kyle says, perfect way to end it. Ring that damn bell tonight. Both. Everybody. Sixers. Philly. Let's get it done. For Philadelphia Sports Network, I'm Phil Stiefel. Y'all have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m.